Newsfirst at 9.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News, live from the Newsfirst Centre here in Colombo. I'm Madhushka Balasurya.
And I'm Nicola D'Souza. Let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
The headlines on Newsfirst at 9.
CMC Commissioner says it is unable to compensate damages caused by the fire in Fort. Tributes continue to pour in from across the world for late Nelson Mandela. 5 persons arrested for excavating for treasure in an archaeological site in Higuragoda. Low pressure zone in the Bay of Bengal develops into a tropical cyclone.
Now, in your top story tonight, the Colombo Crimes Division, together with the police, have launched investigations into the fire that engulfed a number of shops in Petah last evening.
The Colombo Municipal Council notes that steps will be taken to provide the affected shopkeepers with alternate locations to carry out their businesses.
Yes, the police say that the government analyst as well as the chief electrical engineer in the area have commenced investigations into the fire.
The fire erupted at around 7:30 p.m. yesterday. One 102 of the 104 temporary shops that were erected at this location were burnt to the ground as a result of this fire. The police that arrived at the location managed to ease the tense situation. Why were they unable to control this fire in the heart of Colombo? The fire brigade is very close to us. If they deployed about 4 engines, then it could have been doused. If it spread, it could have burned down half of Colombo. We informed everyone. When the first fire engine got here, they didn't have any water. However, the fire was doused by the firefighters at around 9:20 p.m. with the assistance of the area residents. According to the police media unit, a majority of the destroyed goods included toys, footwear, plastic goods, household items and garments. The actual damage caused by the fire is yet to be ascertained. There is a conspiracy behind this fire. A similar conspiracy was carried out recently by those who couldn't stand to witness us plying our trade. Therefore, we can say that the individuals who hatched this conspiracy are circulating various stories now. Within 15 minutes, 104 shops were burnt down. Many people bought these goods by obtaining loans. We have no idea about the amount of goods we possessed.
Do not burn down our shops. Burn our families instead. How can we pay off this debt? We do not even consider the food we have to eat when paying off our debts. When our children ask what is there to eat, we need to have at least rice and sambal. Do not torment us in this manner.
Commissioner of the Colombo Municipal Council, Badrani Jayawardena, visited the location today. She noted that as the Municipal Council does not have any record of the goods that were destroyed by the fire, the Council would not be able to provide compensation. The Commissioner added that they had directed their attention towards providing shops that were set up for street vendors to the affected shop owners. However, she also said that most of the shop owners had not consented to this move. Furthermore, Assistant Government Analyst Roshan Fernando arrived at the scene of the incident at around 2 p.m. today. Mayor of Colombo, A.J. Muzammil, emphasized that necessary steps will be taken once he receives a report of the government analyst. According to the investigations carried out by the police and the government analyst, the fire had erupted from the 77th shop. Evidence provided by witnesses proved the fact that the fire erupted from this shop. The government analyst has obtained samples from the location to ascertain what caused the fire to spread.
Large crowds of South Africans have spent a second night on the streets to pay tribute to former leader Nelson Mandela, who died on Thursday at the age of 95.
Yes, people have been remembering his legacy, dancing and singing in front of Mandela's former home in Soweto after they heard from President Jacob Zuma on Thursday that the statesman and Nobel Peace Prize laureate died peacefully at his Johannesburg home in the company of his family after a long illness.
Crowds of people came to Nelson Mandela's home in South Africa in the early hours of today to pay tribute to the late anti-apartheid leader. Mourners gathered outside Mandela's home in Houghton, Johannesburg to view the makeshift shrine filled with flowers, candles and offerings, and to celebrate the remarkable life of South Africa's first black president with song and dance. South African President Jacob Zuma visited the Johannesburg home of Nelson Mandela to pay his condolences to the anti-apartheid hero's family. Britain's Prince Charles remembered the happy memories he has of Nelson Mandela.
He was a truly remarkable man, and I remember meeting him on various occasions, and he was very special with a wonderful sense of humour and that extraordinary ability for forgiveness and reconciliation. He was such a man of immense stature.
Tributes poured in throughout the day for Mandela, who had been suffering for nearly a year from a recurring lung illness dating back to the 27 years he spent in apartheid jails, including the Robben Island penal colony.
Nelson Mandela will be remembered for many things. He will be certainly remembered for the way he led, his dignity, his extraordinary understanding, not just of how to bring democracy and freedom to his beloved South Africa, but how important it was that he first brought freedom to himself.
But this man was one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met in my life. And I saw him go through the whole thing with Robben's Island. He had 14 bodies of government he had trained. And he went to Algeria, which is a true training ground for terrorists, with the Green Berets and everything else. And he said, no, I don't want to do this. This is more bloodshed. They're all my people. The system is messed up. Let's go back to South Africa and do it the right way.
Ukrainian pro-Europe demonstrators marked their protest with a minute of silence in remembrance of former South African President Nelson Mandela, while mourners also gathered in central London to mourn the passing of the former South African president.
Now, several tributes were also paid to the former South African President Nelson Mandela in Parliament today.
We will never forget the yeoman service rendered to humanity by this great individual who worked on behalf of social equality. This fearless leader who stood for freedom and equality passed away on the 5th of December 2013. We take this opportunity to express our condolences on behalf of the President, the people of this country and the House.
Nelson Mandela is by no means a Gandhi, because he did not confine himself to non-violent means. He did not give up his struggle or suspend his struggle because violence was used. Violence was used extensively by the ANC. But having attained his objective, he implemented the Gandhian ideals in his own country. And that's what he will finally be remembered for.
This individual, who adopted ideals such as non-violence, democracy and respect towards his opposition, became a role model for leaders. I must emphasize that he is a good role model for even our political lives.
Tonight on Words of Wisdom, we bring you the thoughts of former South African President Nelson Mandela.
A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones. Nelson Mandela, former South African President.
Now, a group of representatives from the United States of America met with parliamentary group leader of the Tamil National Alliance, R. Sambandhan, yesterday. MP Sambandhan said attention was focused on adopting the recommendations endorsed at the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. The next UNHRC session will be held in March of next year.
They inquired from us whether the recommendations adopted at the UNHRC in 2012 and 2013 were implemented or not. We held discussions on a political solution, military rule, land problems and missing persons. They also inquired whether the Provincial Council system is being implemented following the Northern Provincial Council election. Attention was mainly focused on a political solution. USA has reiterated the need to implement the recommendations of the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission report.
The U.S. has long urged the government of Sri Lanka to fulfill its public commitments to implement the recommendations of its own Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Committee report and to develop credible justice mechanisms to address outstanding allegations concerning serious violations of international human rights and humanitarian law. We do also continue to be concerned about ongoing issues regarding restrictions on freedom of the press and expression, the erosion of the rule of law, and violence against religious minorities. And we also note with concern that human rights defenders have continued to face reprisals. Obviously, this is something that needs to end.
External Affairs Minister Professor G.L. Pires points out that the international community does not take into consideration the situation in Sri Lanka when adopting resolutions.
You know, in September 2011, notice of a resolution was given by Canada and found that there was no support at all. Even to initiate it, there was no support. The United States took over and the situation changed 180 degrees. What does that mean? That is that voting patterns in respect of the resolution about Sri Lanka are determined not by any consideration of issues pertaining to this country, but the critical factors have to do with the bilateral relationship between the country bringing the resolution and the countries whose votes are being canvassed.
However, United National Party parliamentarian Sajid Premadasa states that shortcomings in the government's foreign policy is the main reason for this situation. Our country is at risk because not only powerful nations but other nations too are organizing against us. We need to reveal our country's foreign policy. First, it was said that there were human rights violations during the war through a joint communique released by Ban Ki-moon and the country's president. Then, G.L. Pires writes to Ban Ki-moon stating that there is an unbreakable connection between the Darusman report of the UN and the LLRC. Due to this dual role in Sri Lanka's foreign policy, our country is in a serious debt trap.
You're watching Newsfirst Primetime News.
We'll be back after a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
The President engaged in religious observances at the historical Maligawila Rajamaha Vihara this morning. A resting room which was built in the Vihara premises at a cost of 2 million rupees was declared open by the President. The President met with the Chief Incumbent Venerable Ulapana Chandrajyoti Thera and also spoke with the students of the Standa School. In more local news, a number of cases have been reported in the recent past on certain groups being taken into custody on charges of excavating for treasure. This is one such incident.
5 persons were arrested this morning for excavating for treasure in an archaeological site in the Pansal Godalla area in Hinguragoda. The police media unit noted that the group was arrested by police officers of the Archaeological Protection Special Unit together with the Hinguragoda police. A car and other items were taken into police custody. The police noted that the arrested persons were residents of the Kurunagala, Nikavaratiya, Kobeigane and Pansal Godalla areas. Treasure hunting continues to take place because there is no definite practical plan in place to stop it. This continues due to the lack of such a plan. That is why statues in temples are looted, and that is why places of archaeological value continue to be destroyed.